It's really an honor to be here today. I'm Jennifer Whitacre, trauma specialist, empowerment strategist, and shadow guide. And I work largely in my practice with the subconscious implicit mind, much more so than the explicit mind. And what goes hand in hand with the work I do is understanding the physiology of the subconscious mind rather than having it as some mysterious esoteric thing that we can't understand. And before I get started and into the heart of my presentation, I would like to just let you know at the end, Jenny is so wonderfully going to drop a few links for me. And one of those links is to the blog post that was published on the Woo blog yesterday. In my blog post that was just published, I talk about the history of collective consciousness, Emile Durkheim, where it came from, and what that means. And I talk about the collective consciousness as being an organism. And in any organism, just like you and I are human organisms, if something in the organism is not working right and harmoniously together, then that's what we call illness or disease. And so there can be illness or disease within the organism of the collective consciousness. So if you haven't seen that video blog, please circle back later and watch it because you'll get some value out of it. And my topic for today is collective consciousness and resonance. And we're going to go into a science lesson. My blog post was a history lesson. Today is going to be a little bit of a science lesson because there are several important factors to cover in order to understand how the collective consciousness can affect us individually. And it's so easy to try to whittle it down to just one thing. But I'm here to tell you it's not just one thing. There are many layers of things, and I'm going to get to a few of those layers, but please keep in mind I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. And the first layer is the concept of the field. And we learn in school that the basic building blocks of matter are particles like quarks and electrons, and that these particles form the Lego bricks from which all matter is made. But this statement isn't entirely true. According to our best laws of physics, the fundamental building blocks of nature are not particles at all. Instead, they're continuous fluid-like substances that are spread throughout all of space. And we call these things fields. And the field that we all live in is what we call the air. And the ripples in these fields give rise to what we call waves. And waves are things like light waves, electromagnetic waves, sound waves, Wi-Fi and cellular signals are waves, and so on and so forth. So waves are simply field patterns that propagate from one place to another, and the field is the medium through which they move. And that's an important concept about the field and waves. So stick a pin in that because we're coming back to it. But first, we're going to shift gears, and now we're going to talk a little bit about resonance, because there's such a thing as physiological resonance between individuals. And this physiological resonance is fundamental to the biological capacity for empathy. And we know that we can observe the pain or distress of someone else, and that we can exhibit increases in our own pain and distress as a result just by seeing or witnessing someone else's pain and distress. So physiological stress, whether it's observed or experienced firsthand, will activate within the body the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and also the SAM axis, the sympathetic adrenomedullary axis. In other words, stress hormones. So your endocrinology is involved in how we experience the field. And people often report aversive states resulting from the stress of another. So for example, watching a horror movie and covering your eyes and like peeking through your fingers, or you might see somebody either on TV or in your presence stub their toe. And whether or not you see that little pinky toe sticking straight out where it's dislocated or broken, you don't even have to see it. You might pick your foot up off the floor and just go, ugh, and cringe. And these cringe-worthy moments activate the production of stress hormones in both the experiencer and the observer through physiological resonance. And studies show that we can indeed catch the physiological stress of another, suggesting one, that stress acts as a contagion, a little bit like a virus, and two, that there's a specific health risk for those in the social network of chronically highly stressed individuals. And yes, you heard that right. The elevated stress levels of those around you can adversely affect your health. And that's why this is such an important topic about to choose wisely whom you allow into your inner circle. Now we're going to shift gears again, because another layer to this, it's never just one thing, is mirror neurons, another physiological mechanism that makes this possible. And mirror neurons were originally, when they were first discovered, called empathy neurons before the scientific community settled on the name mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are yet another layer to the reasons why humans are prone to mimic or imitate the states of those around us. So it's why you yawn when you see somebody else yawn, or why you might see cute YouTube videos of dogs doing the same yoga poses that their owners are doing, because all mammals have mirror neurons, not just humans. Mirror neurons and physiological resonance, like the field, are important concepts to remember. So take a brief moment to think about the impact that news stories have on your physiology and ask yourself, are you as careful about what you visually and emotionally consume as you are about what you eat and what you put on your body? Now I'm going to shift to yet another aspect of resonance here. And again, this is another layer into the science of resonance. And when I'm veering away from those colloquial conversations when people say, oh, that doesn't resonate with me, because that's just a colloquial adaptation that means confirmation bias and I don't agree with you. I'm not talking about that type of resonance. So I want you to imagine that I have a guitar that I'm holding, and let's pretend I play guitar. And I've got two guitars about 6-8 feet away from me, leaning on their stands over near the wall. And I'm going to strum an A string on my guitar. Well, that A string is going to send a sound wave through the field that's propagating from this location to that location. And when it comes into contact with the A strings on those guitars that are not being played, that are tuned to the same note, those A strings are going to vibrate, and they're going to send back to me another wave. So kind of imagine one wave going out and another wave coming back. And when that wave comes back and hits the A string on my guitar, it's going to amplify that sound. Now, our emotions, when we experience an emotion, we send out a wave that's very similar to a sound wave with our emotions. And this is an aspect of the social engagement system. And the social engagement system is a biological function of the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. And it's the social engagement system. It's through this aspect of our nervous system that we can co-regulate with those around us. So that's why it feels so darn good to be around people who are happy, grateful, purpose-driven, and fulfilled in their lives, and why it feels so utterly crappy to be around those who are stressed, anxious, angry, and numbed out people. Our nervous systems are automatically, through this parasympathetic social engagement system, always co-regulating with those around us. And it happens automatically because it's part of our autonomic nervous system. And if we aren't aware of it, then it drags us through life. And so our parasympathetic nervous system, which, like Leah talked about, is highly related to the vagus nerve. So just like our breath, when we're not paying attention, our breath takes over and it just breathes for us. But when we are paying attention, we can consciously adjust our breath. It's the same thing with the aspects of the vagus nerve. There's this huge autopilot function, but with interoception and awareness, not introspection, but interoception, big difference. We can start to affect our own vagus nerves, and we can self-regulate our own physiology. And by now, I think most of us in this group, I'm kind of assuming, have heard about the studies on meditation and how large groups of people coming together in meditation can reduce the crime rates in a geographical area that's around the people who are meditating. And that's because human consciousness, so go back to the collective consciousness, which is the field, and waves affect the field, and our emotional waves will affect that field. And according to the HeartMath Institute out of California, human consciousness, especially emotions of love and compassion, do in fact modulate the global field. And this is true throughout nature. Anywhere in nature, it's the collective that creates higher organization, not the individual. Our human bodies are wired for connection, for compassion, cooperation, kindness, and collaboration. We're designed to live in harmony. However, living in stress and survival, when those waves are constantly coming at us through the field and our bodies are designed to pick this up, it severely diminishes our ability to connect and be in that cooperation, kindness, and collaboration. Stress and survival cause us to feel separate, disconnected, divided, different, and alone. And survival is all about self-preservation. So when we can pause long enough to let the wave of elevated emotions flow through us and actively, willingly, and consciously create that wave of elevated emotions within us, we activate pro-social networks that go into the field via the brain and the nervous system that cause us to want to gather, connect, commune, and move towards one another. And right now, the collective consciousness is a hot mess, and it keeps bumping us out of that place. And where we are now, it takes a regular daily practice, both morning and night, to maintain that sense of elevated emotions in our systems. So I'm going to invite you, and I invite you to keep your eyes open as you do this, because whenever we are faced with stress out in the real world, we don't always have the capacity to remove ourselves and go into our meditation rooms and take 30 minutes to reset ourselves. Not saying those are not important practices, because they absolutely are. However, they do not give you the practice of doing this in the moment and on the go. So with your eyes open, in the moment and on the go, I invite you to focus your attention in the area of the heart. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and a little deeper than usual. And just like Leah mentioned earlier in her presentation, breathe in to approximately a count of 5 and breathe out to approximately a count of 8. And physiologically, what you're doing with this breath, you are hacking the ventral vagal aspect of the vagus nerve. And the ventral vagal is what activates the social engagement aspect of our nervous system. So keep breathing slower and deeper than normal. About 5 in and about 8 out. And with each exhale, focus your attention on the inside and feel your body just relaxing and sinking a little bit more into your seat. And I'm going to play a tone along with this breath. And what I want you to focus on as I play this music is the vibration that you're feeling inside your body. As they begin to chant, feel that wave coming into your body and resonating with your cells. And according to the HeartMath Institute, If you can get yourself into a state of coherence, which is where the heart and the brain are in a state of heart rate variability and coherence, that effect lasts for approximately 6 to 8 hours. So you're going to carry the effects of this, even if you're only in it for a couple of minutes, throughout the day. And that's why I recommend doing a practice like this in the morning and later in the afternoon or in the evening. And whenever my presentation finishes, Jenny is wonderfully going to drop a couple links for me. So you're going to get a link to my blog post so you can circle back and learn a little bit more about the collective consciousness. You will also get a link to a heart math breathing video that you can practice on your own, and information on how you can find this music, which is for free on Spotify. Thank you so much.